It is certainly my pleasure to talk to you today to kick off your discussions about one of our most precious natural resources, obviously water. Like pretty much everybody here, like every human being, we spend much of our life on, in, around, under, over. Water is all around us. I always tell a story. People ask me sometimes how I got started in public service and kind of what inspires you to get going. I'll tell a quick story about water and my family that is one of the reasons why I'm in public service. As most of you know, I'm from a small town, DeSoto, Missouri. Back when I was young, at one point my dad was the mayor of the town. My mom was the president of the school board. And so the two key things, every night at dinner we talk about things. Well, my dad became incredibly annoyed that the Joachim Creek was being despoiled right there in our city. It goes right through town, a place where I was used to fish. So he figured out this thing called the beginnings of the Clean Water Act and some grants and some loans and all this sort of stuff. Long story being short, he was able to run for mayor, get elected. Our town was able to put together that. They were able to build sewage treatment plants, sewage treatment lagoons there. And so a fishery that literally when I was young we could eat the fish out of. For a period we couldn't. By the time I was graduating from high school, we were able to eat the fish out of that stream again just by that direct activity to conserve that direct action, not willing to accept things moving backwards. And as most of you know, I spent a fair amount of time, our family did, outside, floating the streams, being in the water, whether it's the Current, the 11 Point, the Jack's Fork, or some of the North Fork of the White, whatever. We all know the streams. But I just say that it's important to me now, and it was then, and I think when I say me, I don't mean Jay Nixon, I mean our state. It's a value that 6 million Missourians share. It's not a political position, it's a value. As most of you know, I have an annual float trip that's getting bigger and bigger, I guess, in that sense. I thank Dave for joining me, Director Zemer for being right along to make sure all of the rules are followed when I catch fish. Director Polly and her husband Scott with us. Director Brian with us. It's just. I just mentioned that. It's just a wonderful feeling as a governor to be out in a gravel bar in the middle of the day on a float trip in southern Missouri on a beautiful river, as we were this year on 11 Point. And to look out in that river and to see Bob Zemer land a trout, Dave Murphy land a couple trout, Bill Bryan land a trout, Director Polly fish. Our husband's the fisherman, okay? She's it's Barry Hart from the Rural Electric Cooperatives, and we appreciate their great leadership out there. I was able to stir up a little activity, shall we say? But as a governor, the point is not who caught fish and who didn't, Sarah, but it's it's the fact to sit there as a governor of a state and to look out into a river in your state and see not see people posing, not see people waiting to have their picture taken so it makes it look like they're outdoors folks, but to see your director of state parks, your director of natural resources, the head of the Rural Electric Co-ops, the director of conservation, the head of Conservation Federation, doing what we all do, something we have to preserve for the future, knowing what they're doing and appreciate it and having. I just say it's one of the highlights of the year for me this year, just to sit there on the grab bar, and that's why I came in after only lowering the water a certain amount by the size of the fish that we caught. But water isn't important just for recreation in our state. Okay. Although outdoor tourism and fishing are major components of our state's economy and our special way of life, water is also critical to our economy. Whether that's moving goods along our arteries of trade, generating power, irrigating fields, or sustaining our communities. In all of these areas, in many ways, we've been blessed, sometimes some might think by an overabundance of water, But this economic tie is also important for all of us to continue to make. Clean, abundant, and affordable water is vital not only to the health of Missouri, but also to the health and well-being of individual Missourians. So you have the health side of it, the economic side. I mean, my golly. I'm reminded, after I was elected Attorney General just a few decades ago, we were having some water issues. And some of the western states were having water issues, and so they had a water conference for attorneys general to talk about some issues involving water. And so I said, I'm going to go. And so I registered, went out there. We sit down for the first meeting. I remember, I guess it was at Jackson Lake Lodge. I don't know if you haven't been there. It's just an unbelievable place. So we're in the back thing, sitting down, and about 12 or 15 attorneys general, we all sit down. And I see arrayed behind the other attorneys general staff, people that appeared to know what they were doing also. And so I began asking around at the breaks. And the bottom line is each of those various states had water divisions in their attorney general's office to protect the water, to make sure they had quantity, to do the various things that were necessary. And all I had was me. I told somebody else I felt like a guppy at a piranha convention. But anyway, I came back and went to the legislature and said we need to begin to have assets. We need to have a division. I went and we got specific funding. And Bill Bryan, as a young assistant attorney general, was the person designated, the first assistant attorney general designated as that person in our state that have responsibility for not only issues involving the rivers and whatnot, but I make that point in the sense that out west, sure they had questions about quality and all that sort of stuff, but there are huge quantity issues of water. Water is like gold out there. It's a valuable thing that is bought and sold and moved about and whatnot. And sometimes, I'm just saying, we've got a lot of good asset here. And the economic side of having the water that we do and protecting that is extremely important to the long-term economy of our state and of this region. Especially when you go out west and you see the Colorado River basically run out, never make it to an ocean because people parcel that water off. As population grows, states that have water are going to be winners. States that now think about it, plan about it, protect it, use it correctly are going to be the winners in the economy of the future. Maybe not next week, but I guarantee you 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 30 years from now, the states that do what you are doing here right now, put together cohesive stakeholder groups to work together to have not only short-term plans but long-term plans, are going to be the winners economically. And it's incredibly important that we do that. Missouri is often known, quite frankly, for a while we were known as a place of where the rivers run. We've got water resources in our state all over the place. I don't have to tell you all. So as a result, we know that while water makes a lot possible, wells you can take water out of and drink or run a factory or whatever, it can also pose grave challenges. And quite frankly, when there's too much water as well as when there's too little. The too much water side is not something we should forget here. In order to have a strong coalition, we're going to have to make sure that we are working to appreciate the necessity to protect low-lying areas so that they can remain economically vibrant. We saw hundreds of thousands of acres flooded in northwest Missouri this year. We're still dealing with tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars of economic impact because of that. We saw the Corps of Engineers blow up a levee in southern Missouri this year and flood 137,000 acres of prime farmland with an dramatic economic impact on us. So that quantity of water when there's too much is also something we have to be very, very cognizant about. And only when we have all the groups represented and can have a rational discussion about this instead of what far too often in the past has been hidden as a discussion, instead been various sides stating their position. So I cannot tell you how excited I am here, but it's really, really important that water quantity issues on both sides be part of a holistic discussion here, because if that land near some of that prime farmland is not as valuable as it is, then once again the economic stuff rolls away, and we also have to deal with. We have had the unique opportunity this year. It was starkly true to me. On the same day as governor, I declared a disaster, a state of emergency for a flood and a drought on the exact same day in our state. I got a lot of range in this job. But it tells you, I mean, you would literally, in this job, you go from one section of the state where it's underwater and another section of the state where they're wanting rain. And it just is, it's the point. You go to some folks in northern Missouri here where the corn wasn't as high as it should have been this year. And that section in south and east Missouri, which basically drought after, we saw all summer long in Joplin. I mean, you had the horrific storms in May and no rain for months. Working down there in 106-degree heat with no rain anywhere for months. So we also had the largest blizzard in Missouri's history last year. Had to close I-70. So we have all the extremes here. The root of all of those extremes and the way that it's played out oftentimes is water. So once again, when we talk about water, if we're going to cover every base, we have to see when water helps us and when water makes our lives more challenging. And it's not just a flood. It's a snowstorm, and it's the lack of water sometimes and the ability to move water around to make up for that that's important. So managing, preserving, and protecting our precious water resources are vital to the growth and prosperity of our state. And in so doing so, it's really also important to remember that water doesn't just come up from artesian wells in Missouri, and state lines really don't mean anything to water. Okay, I mean we have to have not only just a state strategy but a regional one. This is not. We'd like to believe that we just had to worry about ourselves, everything would be okay. But state lines, just like county lines or city lines, they're really like nothing to water. Just think about it for a second, conceptually. A raindrop that falls right outside this room, right here, will flow into an unnamed tributary of the Hinkson Creek, just south of the building. From there, the water will flow to Hinkson Creek, to Perchie Creek, to the Missouri River, and then to the Mississippi. And from there, mingle with waters that fall everywhere in America between the mountains of Pennsylvania and the eastern slopes of the Rockies. From right there. Finally, at the head of passes where the Mississippi empties into the Gulf of Mexico, the waters of 2/3 of our nation come together. So we're right in the spot where the water. In fact, rain that falls or snow that melts as far away as North Dakota or even Alberta, Canada, will flow right through our state. When it comes to water, we have to remember that issues of quality and quantity are national, if not even international. The decisions we make regarding water affect not only our families and our communities, but our entire region and the world. Once again, it's important to remember, water doesn't know boundaries, and this issue is not one that we're just able to worry about ourselves. We have to be players here, and that's why a state that can put people together like this and be unified can speak for many other states that don't have the capacity we have and don't have the organizations we have willing to do what you were willing to do here is come together for action plans to move forward. Unfortunately, I was reminded of how important this is just a few short weeks ago when I was in China. Every time I needed to drink water in those 8 days, or even brush my teeth, or wash my hands, every time I had to get a bottle of water to do it. Because the water, even in the hotels, was not drinkable. Pretty big country to have that issue. And don't even get me started on the air. We're not going to the air deal here. I mean, you had kids around Beijing and other towns with masks on. Their moms would put masks on their face as they walked up and down the street because they didn't want to breathe in the air. Okay? And water you can't drink. And 1.3 billion people. Okay? We're not going there. We're not going backwards. We are not going to build our economy of the future by wasting our world and wasting our human beings and just spoiling it as quickly as possible. The earth is not a depreciable asset. Okay, it is an investment we all make, and one we're going to make sure that we protect in the future. And Missouri and America. You all, me, all of us have to be leaders, okay? Not just workers, not just willing, but leaders. because it is just vitally important. We need clean water for ourselves, for our children, our grandchildren. We need clean water to enjoy as we sit along our favorite riverbank to go fishing. As I said the first time I ran, I want to be able to eat the fish in every stream in the state of Missouri, just like my dad could when he was born in this state. We're making progress there. Director Pauley and her team are making progress. Director Zemer and his team making progress. All of us making progress, but we're not to the finish line on that yet. Our farmers need water to grow their crops, to feed their families, state and the nation. And the quality of our water and the quantity of our water are very, very important to the value of their land. The predictability of that water is extremely important, especially in low-lying areas. We need abundant water to generate power. And we need to be able to enjoy a cold glass of clean water right out of the tap. Okay? Not be afraid to do that or not have deleterious impacts. And once again, we see every time Department of Health, working with Department of Natural Resources, has to issue a boil order, we don't make that test, and that happens. And we got to make sure it happens less and less and less and less and less. Water, though it's all around us, is always a precious resource. Now, the good thing about Missouri, citizens continue to recognize the importance of protecting and improving our water resource today, just as they did back in '72 when the Clean Water Act was passed. In fact, the survey being discussed here today, the Conservation Federation of Missouri found that while most Missourians are satisfied with the management and supply of water in our state, the majority are concerned about the future quality and supply. So it's almost a typical value. Yeah, we got things. We're worried they might get worse. That's a typical. Who we are. More than half of those surveyed have decided to change personal behavior as part of an individual or community effort to help water resources. Protecting Missouri's water quality includes our drinking water, our lakes, streams, and rivers. Always been a priority. And the other thing, that's a key reason why Missourians support this, not only in the way they feel in their heart, but with their wallet. Once again, we sit as a state with a conservation tax, soil and water tax, parks tax, passed by the people, supported by the people, funded by the people, believed in by the people, giving us sources of income that if we work together, those three sources, we can make significant and continued progress and lead our country. Now, we've achieved many environmental successes and improved the water quality in numerous waterways across the state during the past several decades. But our mission is not complete. We must continue to work together as leaders from this diverse group, nonprofit, public, commercial, communities to preserve, protect, and enhance the precious water resources of our state. Managing and improving our water resources isn't something that government can accomplish or should accomplish by itself. Government's not a value. We have values. Government can be an enforcer, an assister, it can bring people together, but this is not simply a government function. It's important to say that. Government cannot accomplish what needs to get accomplished here in and of itself. So, from the beginning of Missouri's conservation movement, the input of leadership of citizens from across our state has been vital. The same must be true in securing our long-term water future. Some of the best ideas about improving our water resources and protecting them will come from people who love those watersheds. And that's why this summit and the ongoing efforts of the Conservation Federation of Missouri are vitally important. There are no quick fixes, no magic when it comes to ensuring water supply and cleaning up the water. Everybody here knows that. We preserve habitat through smart planning. We restore ecosystems through hard work, and we do it together. My administration, under the leadership of DNR Director Parker Pauley, is committed to working with stakeholders and our partner agencies to enhance watershed planning and management. That includes getting more local citizens involved in the process. We do not want to top down. We want the water to rise. We know that by working together with all of you and by asking the right questions, we can ensure that Missouri's water, from the gentlest of rains to the mighty Mississippi, are clean, safe, and valued for generations to come. So before I let you guys get on, I'll just finish by saying two things. First of all, people came from all around the state here to be here today, and you're going to be here for a couple of days. I want to personally thank each and every one of you for doing that. We got 50 states. I don't think there's 49 other meetings like this going around in 49 other states today, okay? We got a chance to really lead here. Not kind of lead, not sort of lead. nice in my introduction talking about our State Park Youth Corps, which is doing an outstanding job. Our state park system leading. For those of you who don't know, we lost the award as the outstanding state park system in America this year by 1 vote. We can get 1 vote. That way, I'm always reminded of a story about they usually do these youth elections. I was running for office the first time my kids were young, and they do these youth elections in the grade schools. And they did one, Morrow Heights, in Jeff City, when one of my sons was relatively young. And they posted the elections, and I was coaching youth basketball in the school at the time, and Georgianne was involved, and they knew who we were. Bottom line is I was running against, I don't even remember who, but I win the election in Morrow Heights 94-6. Okay, it's a pretty good number. Okay, I was pretty pumped. Okay, quite frankly, I was really, really pumped about it. But anyway, nobody else liked it. So anyway, they bring the stuff home. My son comes home and says, "Here's the results, Dad. You won 94-6." And I said, "Wow, that's really good." He said, "Well, I know who those 6 are." You know, I mean, we know who the one is. Okay, that's all I'm saying. We know who the one is. I mean, we're going to stick right with this. You know, it's but to go Director Bryan, Director Pauly, Director Zemer. I mean, they stand on the shoulders of some really huge giants in our state, and every one of you. I would only say that everyone here sitting here, you're standing on the shoulders of giants. We are only here today because people in this state 100 years ago, 75 years ago, 50 years ago, 25 years ago were just as committed, if not more, than we need to be today. And with the population growths, with the economic challenges, with the shortened interest span people have in long-term issues because of the need for instant gratification and communication at the stroke of half a second, we have challenges. But on the other side of that equation, things that happen anywhere in the world affect us. When a debt crisis in Europe takes $1 trillion out of our stock market in a week, or a tsunami in Japan causes instant action here, so too can we be hurt. So stand on the shoulders of those that came before you. Make them proud. Take a more challenging time. Take more people. Take an environment in which people don't want to talk about long-term issues as much. Take a political environment in which people spend a heck of a lot of time figuring out what's wrong with the other person's argument as an excuse to do nothing each and every day, as if that is public discourse, and be inspired by those challenges, not diminished by those challenges. Because it's relatively easy for Director Bryan to be Parks Director when he gets to start day one and he gets 85 parks for free and a sales tax. It's relatively easy for Director Zemer to manage a big organization that existed before he got there. It's relatively easy for Dave Murphy to do what he does after 75 years of folks doing it. All I'm saying is the people that came before us, they were heroes. They were strong. When they had challenges, they didn't blanch. They stepped up. They made Missouri a leader. It's your job and my job to make sure we keep leading. Thank you, and God bless.